and welcome back to Interviews with Plants, Winter Edition. So today we're going to be looking at Acer macrophylla, also known as the bigleaf maple. So this large woody deciduous tree is common in our region and can be easily mistaken in the wintertime for other deciduous plants such as cottonwood. One of my favorite things to do when I'm trying to identify a tree in the wintertime is to step back and look at the overall silhouette or shape of the tree. With the bigleaf maple, they have what's called a decurrent branching pattern. That means there's multiple leaders rather than having one main branching leader like we would see in, say, a black cottonwood. Bigleaf maple often branches lower down in the stem and can have multiple trunks even coming out from right at the base. Sometimes they branch and have multiple stems coming out from slightly higher up on the trunk. They tend to have a really wide spreading canopy, often as wide as they are tall, so they can have an overall upright oval or slightly horizontal oval silhouette. Bigleaf maple can often have an asymmetrical crown, where part of the crown is leaning in one direction. This is because of light. The plant will always grow towards the light, so sometimes the crown is not perfectly oval in shape, as it'll be growing towards the direction of the nearest light source. If you look high up in the canopy, you should be able to see an opposite branching pattern, where the branches are coming out opposite each other along the stem. Sometimes you can also see remnant structures where the samaras were attached. If you look on the ground, you might be able to find samaras that have fallen off throughout the fall and winter. Samaras are also known as helicopters or maple keys. They come in pairs, like these two. When they fall off the tree, they spiral down and fly away to bring the plant to new locations. If you look closely, these samaras are attached at about a 45-degree angle. That's an important feature for when trying to identify maples. Another really interesting and unique feature of the bigleaf samaras is the hair that grows on the seed location. These hairs are quite thick and sharp and can even almost act like splinters if you touch the seeds. If you look up on the tree, you'll sometimes see the remains of where all the samaras were attached. These are long, big structures that hold multiple seeds. Once the seeds have fallen off, they kind of look like a cluster of grapes when you've picked all the grapes off. Each little spot would have held 2 seeds. These structures last well into the winter and next spring, so they're a very durable and unique way to try to identify bigleaf maple in the winter time. Let's have a closer look at the bark. This is a young bigleaf maple. You might think of it as a teenager. You can see it has a smooth gray bark at this time. As it matures, the bark will become deeper furrowed and cracked. This specimen is intermediate in age. You can see that it's starting to form some cracks and furrows in the bark. As the plant matures, these furrows will become deeper. When it's fully mature, the bark of a bigleaf maple can look quite similar to that of a mature black cottonwood. When trying to identify a bigleaf maple and you're looking at the bark, sometimes the bark can be obscured by moss. Moss very commonly grows on the trunks of bigleaf maple trees. You'll often also find licorice fern growing in the moss on these trees. If we look at a new twig coming off the tip of a bigleaf maple, we can see the immature bark. The immature bark is actually 2 different colors. The top side that is facing the sun, like this side, has a slight burgundy or brownish tint. If you flip the twig over, you'll notice it's more of a lime green on the underside. That's the side that's not getting hit directly by the sun. So this little burgundy color on top is sort of like a suntan for the twig. You can also notice the small lenticels that are kind of an olivey green color along the stem. If we look at the very tip of the twig, you'll notice a large bud. We call that one the terminal bud. Inside that bud is next year's leaves and flowers. You'll notice on either side of the terminal bud, there are 2 smaller lateral buds. We call this type of branching pattern opposite. You can see the two buds are located opposite along the stem. If we look further down the stem, we can see a smaller pair of opposite buds. Underneath these small opposite buds, you'll notice a brown line. That is the leaf scar from last year's leaves. On maples, they almost directly connect and form a V-like or M-like pattern as you turn the twig. As you might have guessed, big leaf maples have extremely large leaves. If you look closely on the ground, you can sometimes find the remains of last year's leaves. They're often not intact though, because they're quite fragile and can break into many little pieces quite easily. I found this one, which is perfectly intact. However, that's quite rare. If you look closely, you'll notice that they have a smooth margin and 5 lobes. So those are some of the key features that you need to look at when identifying big leaf maple, Acer macrophylla in the wintertime. Be sure to look for more than one trait before you make your final decision. So let's thank the big leaf maple for its time and tune in next time for more interviews with plants.